That's almost a scheduled loss. It's no fair. It's almost scandalous. The NFL shouldn't have done it to him.
Scheduled loss.
It's not fair. I'm not picking the road team. The road team loses about 75% of the time in the playoffs. I'm not picking a West Coast road team to win at 10 o'clock their time. That's tough.
I think people really discount home field advantage, but
it's a big deal.
Like it is
it's
huge. I mean, you look at all for the past few years, all right, people have been in the Super Bowl, have had home field advantage, or have hosted playoff.
It's really hard to prepare 53 young millionaires to focus and lock in a football game on the road. I mean, if it was easy, Kyle Shanahan could do it, and the Niners wouldn't be 0-8. I mean, if it was easy, someone other than Jim Harbaugh could have the answer to do it here in San Francisco.
Not Jim Tomsula.
Not Jim Tomsula. Not any of these guys.
We'll get to the 49ers talk now because, I mean, what a season, right? You're following it week by week, the offseason. I was thinking going into the season, okay, so is the year going to start with a trophy ceremony? Because listening to 49ers fans around the Bay Area, I was thinking, what, did the Niners just win a title?
I'm so with you.
They beat the Jaguars? Okay.
I know. It's just like they revel in the little moral victories. It's like they got blown out week 17, but they're celebrating on the sideline because Kittle broke a record.
Right.
Like, why don't you celebrate that tomorrow?
Right.
Do you think the Patriots would have a single member of their team celebrating on the sideline when they're getting blown out, when they're losing by 15? No. Yeah. And when you look at that, you say, well, how much does winning really mean to this organization?
Right.
Or did you go into this game and say, well, we're probably going to lose, but let's get Kittle's record and take heart in the moral victories?
Well, yeah, and you don't see coaches talking about getting players' records, which
No.
I did find interesting.
You think Harbaugh would have cared? Yeah. Not in a million years.
Right.
And if Kittle had done that, Harbaugh would have used that as an opportunity not to kick Kittle off the team, but to yell at him.
Yeah.
And to make it. This is what I got a little story, but every training camp, there would be fights.
Right.
Okay. And Harbaugh, what he would do, he would always take the side of the undrafted player. So Anquan Bolden punched a guy in the face one time, undrafted cornerback. Harbaugh steps in, gets in Bolden's face, curses him out, sends him out. And that's the message to the team. This is my team.
Right.
This is Anquan Bolden, one of the toughest guys in the league.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem.
You're not starting anything.
No, not starting anything. And this is my opportunity to say it's my team. I'll make it up with Anquan later. We don't have any problems.
Right.
But Kyle can't do that. A lot of these coaches can't do that.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, and a lot of people say, and they 49ers fans are, I think that the ones I've talked to, I have a sense of like, okay, we'll give them a year when everyone's healthy.
Right, of course. Of course.
Okay. We'll start with Shanahan because you've mentioned him multiple times. So, yeah, Shanahan, is he the guy that's going to turn this team around? But it's from talking to you, it sounds like you see some drawbacks.
I don't believe he is. This is the way I look at it. On the West Coast, we're not thinking about the Miami Dolphins, but it's almost like they're a year ahead of what the Niners are going through. Adam Gase is like the same exact guy. He's one of these coordinator types who has a nice offense. He's young. He gets along with the players, but he doesn't win on the road. He's not tough. I think Kyle Shanahan has a lot of the same excuses. Like last year, Gase didn't have his quarterback. Ryan Tannehill was hurt his knee.
Right.
And everyone in Miami was like, well, give him one more chance. Maybe he'll do better next year. He didn't grow at all. I mean, they won 6 games at home, 1 game on the road.
Right. He had Tannehill.
Had Tannehill. So this is going to be an interesting year for Shanahan. He has the same year 2 excuse. Now he's going to get Garoppolo back next year. Win.
Do you think that's when the hot seat talk starts?
Absolutely.
Let's say if they win,
absolutely.
They have 6-10, 7-9, something like that.
If he goes 7-9, a lot of owners would fire him. The wild card is Jed, because Jed, he makes himself bad every time he fires someone because he hired him.
Right.
How many people?
And he gave him a ton of years. Right.
So basically, the one thing working in Kyle Shanahan's favor more than anything is Jed York's reluctance to make himself look bad. But if Kyle goes, I think what's going to happen next year, Jimmy Garoppolo is going to come back. This team is more talented than people realize, and you see it when they beat the Seahawks at home. I think they're going to win a lot of home games next year.
Yeah.
I think they're going to go 6-2 at home.
Yeah.
But on the road, they're going to have the same problems. They're going to go 1-7. They're going to finish 7-9, and Jed York's going to have a real tough decision on his hands. I know what I would tell him what to do, but that's down the line.
Doesn't sound like you think Jimmy Garoppolo is the franchise quarterback.
I don't know. He may be. He may be, or Nick Mullins may be. We don't know. What I'm saying is the issues that are ultimately going to bring down Kyle Shanahan are issues that Jimmy Garoppolo can't fix. The issue is leadership. When they go on the road, the defense all of a sudden doesn't play. Jimmy can't fix that. Yeah. Like when they started off on the road this year in Minnesota and lost.
Right. And that was an ugly game.
Jimmy couldn't do anything. Right. And then 2 weeks later, they went to Kansas City and lost. They were down 35-10 at halftime. Like, this is a organizational issue that really isn't even Kyle's fault. I'm not saying Kyle is the reason they can't win on the road. He just doesn't have the solutions. The reason they can't win is a top-down cultural, I don't know what you want to call it, but it's a tone that Jed York sets.
It's so, I mean, the onus starts with York. How much do you put on Lynch?
Oh, him too. I mean, I'm being harsh here, but Lynch, he's not qualified for his job. I mean, he's a player. He was a broadcaster. He's totally figuring this out on the job. He says things like, we were talking to him in his year-end press conference, and he said, you know, John, your defense just set the record fewest interceptions ever in takeaways. You know, what do you make of that? And he goes, well, you know, we've done some research, and we found that players who create turnovers in college seem to do it more in the pros. Like, oh, you just figured that out? You just did some research, John? Like, I mean, NFL GM is not the kind of job where you learn on the job.
Yeah.
You should have some credentials. You should have some bona fides coming in. And since when did the Niners become this organization where people who have no experience just come in and tinker around and experiment? This was the Patriots before the Patriots. People think I'm tough on the Niners. I have high expectations, and I think they should be a lot better than this.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and it's you have all these puzzling combinations sometimes.
Yeah.
My first year covering the team was with Jim Tomsula. Okay,
yeah.
You
Yes.
could tell early on. All right, I don't think this is going to last. Chip Kelly, that was an awkward culture. Yeah. This, you seemed okay. You're going to hit the reset button one more time. You give them some years to make it work.
Yes.
Have you seen enough that there are some pieces that could make it work in the long run?
I like the pieces. That's the interesting thing.
Because you have the George Kittle factor. You have.
Let's go through I mean, Kittle's good. People seem to like the right tackle, McGlinchey. Staley can still play. There's two quarterbacks who can play well. Yeah. I mean, DeForest Buckner's one of the best passers. There's a lot of talent on the team. What the team needs is a coach.
Yeah.
A head coach. And until Shanahan realizes, here's what he needs to do. Here's what he can do this offseason to change my opinion of him and his fortunes going forward. One, call up Jim Harbaugh. Figure out what he did on the road.
Yeah.
That's it right there. That's the number one thing. Two, hire an offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Because
this double duty thing.
You don't want to be the jack of all trades, master of one. In the NFL, you better master something. Yeah. When he was younger, he mastered being an offensive coordinator. Now it's time for him to master being a head coach, try being a head coach, dabble in it, and he isn't even doing it right now. That's the problem. That's why they can't win on the road, because he's tied in with the offensive game plan. If he hired an offensive coordinator, it would free him up to give 100% of his energy and his intellect and brilliance to a new job.
Well, sticking with that theme, I mean, you look at the league and you see, multiple teams having these head coaching vacancies, and you see the names that are coming out.
Yes.
You can tell that teams are already looking for the next guy, the next Sean McVay.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And they're looking for offensive guys. What do you make of that, where all these people all of a sudden that the focus is on just finding some people that worked on an offensive system?
Right.
Cliff Kingsbury's getting looks. The guy, Zach Taylor, McVay's quarterback.
Absolutely. The owners, this is what they think. The owners look and they say, well, all the rules favor offense. Look at these offenses are doing well. I want to get in on that. Also, these young offensive coaches seem to do well with the young quarterbacks. Yeah. And if I'm going to invest in a young quarterback, I need someone who can coach them. Yeah. So that's the thinking, and it makes sense. The only problem is you're hiring a head coach. Yeah. And just because a guy's a coordinator doesn't mean he can be a head coach. They're totally different jobs. It's like a producer and a director. Yeah. They're totally different things. And sometimes coordinators become good coaches, like McVay. Right. And we were talking about it. He has a innate leadership quality.
The team seems to love him and gravitate around him.
Right? I don't see that in Kyle. Yeah. Kyle seems like he's much more comfortable in the booth calling plays than on the field. He's much more comfortable thinking in theory than talking to a player. So that's what I see. It's a trend. Everyone wants the next Sean McVay. There's one Sean McVay. I think the pendulum could eventually swing back, and owners could realize maybe we need a grown-up to lead our team. Maybe we need a guy like Vic Fangio or Jim Harbaugh.
Is there anyone in the building that you see has the tough conversations?
That's the problem. The answer is no. Yeah. There's no one in that organization who can go into Kyle Shanahan's office on a Tuesday and say, Kyle, all due respect, your red zone offense is terrible. We're the bottom of the league. I've been in the league 4 decades. I have some ideas. Yeah. Why don't you hear me out and see what see what you think? There's no one who can have that conversation. And I think it's by design. From everything I understand about Kyle, he doesn't like to be challenged. And he doesn't like it from the media. He doesn't like it in the organization. That's why most of his assistant coaches are about 29, 30. They look up to him. I mean, to them, he's their guru. And really the only authority figure he ever had was his dad, who probably, at the same way, he's one of these young geniuses who does not want to be questioned by anyone. I think Gase is the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Grant, we could talk for an hour, okay, covering these teams. But, thank you so much. Grant Cohn, covers the 49ers for the Santa Rosa Press-Democrat. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoy the playoff games. We're going to have to be talking more because we got a lot to break down. Thank you so much, Grant.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.
All right.